So I'd like to welcome everybody to this session of the 27th Information Society International Multi-Conference. We are here to do our session on basically inclusion and digitalization. Today we will have three speakers in this session who are actually initially representing the Set for Inclusion project, Erasmus project, and we will be here today with you to start with the results of our project. Let me introduce myself initially. My name is Tuncer Can. I'm an associate professor in English language department at Istanbul University, Cerrahpaşa, and as part of this visit to Slovenia, which I'm very happy of, I really wanted to contribute to the conference and share this session with you. I would like today the first speaker. This is the plan of today's session actually. First we will have Maja Pušnik, Boštjan Šumak, Katja Kaus, Florian Gallo, and Enrico Dolza, who are going to talk about the framework that we have created on digitalization and inclusion basically. The second talk, when we are done with the technical stuff, is going to be from Romania and Portugal cooperation, where Marius Balas, Valentina Balas, Dana Rat, Gabriel Rat, and Sergio Correia, who's here among us today, will also be presenting. They're going to talk about the Moore's law on education, which is like every 2 years the information that the students need to learn double. So basically this is the key word here, and they're going to talk more about this. And then the last speaker of today is going to be Isabel Leandro Garcia and Marta Marmol Munoz. They're going to talk about the self-evaluation tool that we did in the practice. So the speakers will have 15 minutes to talk, present their presentation, and 5 minutes for questions and answer we will allow. So first I would like to invite Maja to present her presentation today with us. So Maja, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. I have to do something? Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Those are my slides. Thank you. Hello from my side. My name is Maja Pušnik, as already presented by Professor. And I am lucky today to start with presenting the activities that we prepared within our project, an Erasmus Plus project that is called Set for Inclusion. It had, or it still has, because the project is ongoing for 3 weeks still, many partners from Spain, Italy, Turkey, Portugal, and of course Slovenia. And the project started around 2 years ago. One of first activities that we had to conduct was to define a framework for self-evaluation tool, as the title says. And I will present a little bit about how this process was conducted, what our motivation was, and what the main results are after this first activity, which will be then further presented by our partners. Okay. So the motivation was kind of born during COVID, a bit, maybe a little bit later, when from different research we realized that while digital education is fine, very good, there are many possibilities, there is still a lack of preparedness of different faculties, institutions, and so on for students with special education needs or different disabilities. and the motivation was to do something about it, to prepare institutions better, to make them realize what their weak points are, and to provide them some guidance how they can improve the way they approach education, management, every aspect really in the field of education, in higher education. So we had to learn a lot about this problematic, and we tried to approach by creating this framework in a systematic way. What does this mean, systematic way? It means we first studied literature review together with our partners, what is already researched within this field. We came upon over 100 literature units in the past 10 or even less years, and try to gather this knowledge in a systematic way. Because this literature review produced a lot of ideas which were really hard to kind of shorten, summarize in a more clear and organized framework. We developed 2 surveys asking directly HEI staff, HEI is abbreviation for higher education institutions, and SEND students, what they think, what they feel is lacking, how do they feel things could be improved, and what our proposed framework feels like to them. Do they agree? Should we change something? And so on. So that was the second iteration when we, with help of staff and SEND students, cleaned up this framework idea a little bit, and continued with 10 concretely workshops which were conducted among all the partners in Spain, Portugal, Turkey, Italy, and Slovenia, asking students, managers, staff, all experts in this field to help us out and really focus our framework on the elements that are really important. This is depicted the process. So it was a little bit iterative. It took almost a year to do all the steps and really prepare a framework that served us in continuous activities when we really try to implement or did implement self-evaluation tool, which we presented by our Spanish partners, and learning units and good practices and so on. Okay, so what were the main results from this framework? It was the self-evaluation tool, as I mentioned before. So a tool, a way to evaluate for staff and managers if my faculty, my institution, the way I do things is inclusive. To get feedback whether or not I am doing okay, and to identify my weak points and get some help, some guidance, some good practices, and so on. These evaluation tools would be further specified for institutions in general and teachers. Because I will probably need some guidance, several micro-learning units were defined, also based on this framework, with content providing me the users good practices and so on, and one platform, so I have one point where I can go check all the content, do the self-evaluation tool as much as I want, and try to monitor my progress through the years. The framework is really complex. It has 8 categories that are depicted here, and almost 60 more specified factors. I will glance through them because they are really detailed. You will be able, if you're interested, really look at them as one of the output of this project. So this framework will be publicly published, so you can really read about how we got to each idea. But to give you an idea how we, based on the literature, surveys, workshops, we defined the following categories in the framework. One is leadership or schools perspective, then collaboration and networking, the third infrastructure and equipment or tools and technology. Despite the fact that it's about digital inclusion, we cannot forget about physical inclusion as well. Then the concept of continuous professional development. We always have to upgrade our knowledge. From pedagogical point of view, supports and resources as fifth category, and as sixth category, implementation in the classroom. Then the assessment practices or inclusion assessment, and the last, student digital competence or students' perspective. And here are the items of these categories. So under leadership or schools perspective, the framework includes inclusive digital education strategy, collaborative digital strategy development, and contemporary pedagogical approaches, scheduled time to explore digital teaching, efforts to minimize discrimination, collaboration and communication encouragement between school and teacher, inclusion policies, and digital literacy. Under second category, collaboration and networking, the following aspects are included: progress review, discussion on the use of technology, collaboration of higher education institutions, local communities, caregivers, and parents, synergies for blended learning, staff, governors, students, and parents share a philosophy of inclusion. Then teachers plan, teach and review in partnership, and encourage collaboration and communication between students and teachers. And we continue. Then the third category, accessible infrastructure and tools, digital devices and assistive products for teaching, internet access, technical support, available digital devices and assistive products for learning, devices and assistive products for students, measures to identify the digital divide, support to address the digital divide, bring your device and assistive products, reduced physical barriers, assistive products, online libraries, fairly distributed resources. Last one, now shorter, continuous professional development included discussion of these CPD needs, participation in CPD activities, and face-to-face or online sharing experience between staff. Number 5, supports and resources from the pedagogical point of view are online education resources, creating digital resources using virtual learning environments, communicating with the school community, open educational resources, staff development, student differences, and staff develops resources to support learning and participation. I'm still reading. Sixth, pedagogy, implementation in the classroom, personalization, fostering students' creativity, engaging and motivating students, student collaboration, making everyone feel welcome, partnership between staff and caregivers, students are equally valued, staff and students treat one another as human beings, the school arranges teaching groups so that all students are valued, and training in education on inclusiveness. Almost over. Assessment skills, digital assessment, timely feedback, self-reflection on learning, feedback to other students, using data to improve learning and evaluation metrics. And the last one, from the point of view of student digital competences, are learning to communicate and digital skills across subjects. I am aware that this is a lot, that you didn't remember most of what I said. Why did I go through? I encourage you to really read the framework and read it in detail. I wanted to show you how complex this field is, how many parameters need to be included, and what a tough job it was to really consolidate from all different sources to create this framework that would encompass everything, like from all aspects, from the point of view of students, staff, management, parents, the community, and so on. Obviously, this is too complex to really be useful directly. It's a basis, it's a framework. Based on this, all other activities were adapted, of course, for them to be more approachable, more useful for regular people that don't have time to read hundreds of pages of framework. That's why we created this mapping of self-evaluation tools. So all these parameters within framework were then mapped into, let's say, more useful or more touchable learning units, something that I, as a teacher or a student, really can read through and get something out of. And this is an example. It was really then, again, a mapping process that I believe really produced something useful. I think that will be presented by my partners. I would like to, well, maybe explain how the results of this very complex activity are useful. There are two ways to use what we did. So we took a lot of theory, had a really scientific approach, and tried to create something practical out of it, which is then useful in form of this self-evaluation tool and learning units. And it gives or provides the user to use these outcomes in two ways. One way, this scenario one or case one, is that someone really uses this self-evaluation tool, gets back feedback, realizes that those are my strong points, those are my weak points, and gets some support. Okay, these are your weak points, you lack of modern pedagogical approaches. Here are the examples of approaches that you can use. Or vice versa, you don't really need to do the self-evaluation tool. You can just visit our website, our platform that provides various content in these 8 categories, and you can just glance through them, learn, download PowerPoint presentation, maybe use something for your own classes, use quizzes. There's a lot of material which we believe is very useful for everyone. Adapted, of course, to their needs. So that would be the second scenario of our outcomes. How does this help? The first motivation was to make the world a better place, create a better HEY environment for students, also for teachers, for everyone within HEY education, okay? I think we took a step. Obviously, there are still a lot to be done in this field, but we did provide a tool so someone can check out their inclusion level, so to speak. We can help them identify critical fields in a complete anonymity, so no one has to know that we are lacking in something. We provide them some education, which will of course develop over time, but there is a starting point, and we provide them with some quiz materials. Assessment is really important, which can be reused in their own time. Okay, into conclusion, this framework, this big document, is the basis for the more practical activities, and we believe these are one of the first steps in the activities to optimize evaluation practices within HEYS and really create a better, more equitable and adaptive learning environments that will provide growth for all the students, regardless of their special needs, which we believe that will improve our society on the long run. Thank you. If non-questions emerge, here are a bunch of emails, because this is a collaborative work. Many authors contributed to the framework itself, to writing this paper. So you can send an email to any one of them. I'm sure when you will try the tool out, you will have questions or comments, or maybe ideas how to improve things. And we would be very happy to get feedback from you and try to React. Okay, there's a question. Thank you.
I would like to say that this work is really interesting, and it seems there is a lot of parameters and a lot of different things which we have to consider at education.
Yes.
And you already made this tool.
Yes.
Do you have maybe any feedback till today?
We do. The feedback will be actually presented today by our partners from Turkey. We did a pilot study. The tool was out a few weeks ago, and we started a pilot study in the summer with professors, actually, to try this tool out and provide us feedback. We got, I think, 60 results. Obviously, more would be needed, but we got some initial feedback, how they feel, also some negative maybe aspects, which we will, of course, address. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So please write an email if you have any further questions.